All right, let's talk about one of the most unbelievable financial stories in the history of sports. This isn't just about a boxer. It's a truly wild story about making an insane amount of money, losing it all, and then, well, fighting your way back. This is the story of Mike Tyson's other money fight.
So first, let's just get our heads around the numbers here. Over his career, Mike Tyson earned a staggering $685 million. I mean, that puts him in the absolute top tier of the highest paid athletes ever. It's a fortune that's almost impossible to even imagine. But here's the thing. What you earn? That's only half the story.
Because by 2003, this was his reality. He wasn't just at zero. He was $23 million in the hole. That is a swing of more than $700 million from the top to the bottom. It's just a shocking contrast that really makes you ask one very big question.
Seriously, how does that even happen? How do you go from $100 million paydays to owing millions to pretty much everyone? The IRS, lawyers, you name it. Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at both sides of the coin. The money pouring in and, well, the money absolutely flying out.
Okay, first, let's talk about the income side, the knockout fortune. And the scale of the money he was making, it's just hard to comprehend. At his peak, Mike Tyson wasn't just a boxer. He was a global event, and his paychecks were massive. The cash was just flowing in, fight after fight.
Just look at this for a second. For his fight against Lennox Lewis, he reportedly pulled in $103 million for one night. Can you even wrap your head around that? For a single night's work, a payday that almost no one on planet Earth will ever see. This wasn't just being rich. This was a complete avalanche of money. And that brings us to the other side of the equation, burning through millions. See, when you have that much money coming in, it's really easy to start spending more. But for Tyson, it wasn't just a small upgrade. His spending went into an entirely different universe, and it all comes down to one really important financial idea.
And that idea is called lifestyle inflation. You've probably seen it. You get a little raise, so you start leasing a more expensive car or eating out more. We all do it. But Mike Tyson's story, it's probably the most extreme example of lifestyle inflation in history. His spending didn't just grow with his income, it absolutely exploded. Get this. At his peak, court documents showed Tyson was spending around $400,000 a month just on his lifestyle. To put that in perspective, that's almost $5 million a year just to keep the lights on and the cars running. So what in the world does that kind of spending actually look like? Well, it looked like this, a $2 million bathtub made of gold, over $4.5 million on cars. He famously had Bengal tigers, which cost $70,000 each before you even feed them. He dropped $410,000 on a single birthday party. And my personal favorite, he paid a guy $300,000 a year just to be his hype man and yell at press conferences. You can't make this stuff up. And the math is pretty simple. No matter who you are, you can't sustain that. And of course, it all came crashing down. In 2003, it was over. He filed for bankruptcy. The documents showed he owed $23 million, and a huge chunk of that, over $13 million, was to the IRS. That was the one knockout blow he never saw coming. But what's so incredible is that the story doesn't stop there.
Because what happened next is honestly just as remarkable as how he lost it all. Tyson started this long, slow climb back. He wasn't just trying to fix his finances. He was totally reinventing his entire brand for a whole new generation.
It really kicked off in 2016 when he launched his cannabis brand, Tyson 2.0. Then he got back in the ring in 2020 for a cool $10 million. By 2024, that cannabis company was reportedly valued at $160 million. And today, his net worth is back up to an estimated $30 million. I mean, what a recovery. But the moment that really put a stamp on his comeback was that massive, controversial, but you have to admit, brilliant fight against Jake Paul. It streamed all over the world on Netflix. This thing wasn't just a boxing match. It was a huge cultural moment. And it was all built on the power of Mike Tyson's name. So why was it such a big deal? Well, this right here tells you everything you need to know. Look at his favorability rating in the US, a whopping 69%, more than double his opponents. People still love Mike Tyson. He wasn't just some retired fighter, he was the reason people were tuning in. His brand is still incredibly powerful. And that brand power, it translates into real business. This was a monster win for Netflix. They got an estimated 290,000 new subscribers in the US just for this fight. That proves that Tyson's value goes way beyond the ring now. He's a guy who can drive a huge business.
Look at the proof in the paydays. He basically doubled what he made just a few years earlier. He didn't just rebuild, he got stronger. So, after this insane roller coaster of a story, what's the real lesson for the rest of us?
Because this whole thing is way more than just celebrity drama. It's a perfect, if extreme, case study. It shows us something fundamental about how our brains work when it comes to money. A fight that every single one of us faces, whether we have $10 or $10 million.
And you know, Tyson himself seems to finally get it. He said it himself recently. Handling money is an art. No one's born knowing how to handle money. And his struggle really shines a light on this powerful psychological trigger that affects all of our financial decisions.
It's a concept from behavioral economics called hyperbolic discounting. Now, that's a fancy term, but the idea is super simple. Our brains are hardwired to want a small reward right now way more than a much bigger reward later. It's that voice in your head that wants the $2 million bathtub today and doesn't really care about the giant tax bill that's coming tomorrow. And this is where Mike Tyson's crazy story suddenly becomes very relatable. Look, you're probably not going out to buy a Bengal tiger this afternoon, but what about that decision to grab the expensive coffee every single day or order takeout again instead of putting that same money toward a huge long-term goal, like a down payment on a house? You're fighting the exact same opponent Tyson was, just on a different scale.
So it leaves us with a pretty big question to ask ourselves. What's our version of the gold-plated bathtub? What's that small, easy win you're taking today that might be costing you a way bigger championship prize down the road? Now that's a question worth thinking about.